Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we've got another portable SSD to check out. This is the latest one from Samsung. This is their T7 Shield, and this one is very similar to their prior edition called the T7, but they added some additional ruggedness to it, but it largely performs the same. And we're going to take a closer look at this revision of a popular product in just a second, but I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that I paid for this with my own funds. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. No one is paying for this review, nor has anyone reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what this new drive is all about. Now, the price point on this one starts at around $134 for the 1 terabyte model. There is a 2 terabyte version for about $100 more. I got the black one here, as you can see, but they also come in blue, and they have a beige one that will match your classic PC if you want to go that route. Now, this looks like it's made out of metal, but in fact it is all rubber on the outside, but underneath the rubber is a metal case similar to what we saw on the prior edition of the T7. But note, it is a little bit thicker because of that case. And because the case can add a little bit of a blanket to the mix here, they built in some little heat sinks on here to help dissipate heat away. So this will feel warmer to the touch when you're really doing a lot of operations back and forth to it. But I found performance-wise, it doesn't seem to have any throttling issues, at least in the testing that I've done with it. I would imagine if you are writing huge amounts of data to it over a very long period of time, you'll probably see some degradation in performance, but that would be true of the prior edition as well. So don't be alarmed by the warmer temperature here. I think it's actually working as it's supposed to draw the heat to the outside of the case. There is no fingerprint option on this one at the moment, and that will limit its compatibility when you're looking at connecting it to things like iPads. So for example, on the T7 Touch that I have here, you could encrypt the drive and then use your fingerprint to unlock it, and it would basically work with anything. This one is only going to work encrypted with Mac, Windows, or an Android device. So if you are looking for encryption and flexibility as to where you can use it, I think the prior model here with the fingerprint reader is the way to go. But if you are not using encryption, this will work just fine on anything that will work with a USB hard drive, and that will go beyond what they say it works with, and you'll see some examples of that in a few minutes. Now, solid-state drives are pretty rugged by design because they have no moving parts in them, but Samsung says that the rubber casing on the new Shield here is more rugged than the prior edition. They rate this to be able to survive a 3-meter fall to the ground, whereas the old one can only survive 2 meters, they say. And that, of course, is due to the rubber casing it has around it. You cannot take the rubber casing off without damaging it, so it is on forever. There's no need for a secondary case with this. I know a lot of people were buying cases for their prior edition drives. It also is IP65 rated, so it can survive a drop into some water, and it's also dust resistant. Just note, though, if you are around water, you do not want to immerse it in water while it is plugged in, because your computer likely is not going to do well with that. But if you do happen to drop the drive in the water, once you dry it off, you should be in good shape. Now, the drive has a single USB Type-C port here on the back. This supports USB 3.2 Gen 2, which means that it can go up to 10 gigabits per second if your computer has a 10 gig port. What was nice is that you get 2 cables in the box. One is a USB-C to USB-C cable, not very long though, and you get a USB-C to USB-A cable as well. Both of these cables will support the 10 gigabit speed on a supported port, but the drive will also work on slower ports all the way down to USB 2.0. Now, I did find that the cable doesn't latch in as securely as the prior edition drive does, so I would avoid handling this too much while you're writing data to it just to be safe. It does latch in, but it comes out very easily. There is a nice little indicator light here at the top. It lights up blue when data is being read or written, and it will also light up red when you go to eject the drive to let you know when it's safe to pull the cable out. So I'll eject it here. You can see it's turning red, and then when that red light goes out, you can take the drive away. Now, Samsung advertises this drive as being able to achieve 1 gigabyte per second, both in reads and writes, and it's going to vary based on the connector that you have it plugged into. So if your computer does not have a 10 gig USB port, it will be slower than the maximum speed. And I also found that the M1 Max don't get up to that speed either. I've got a 14-inch MacBook Pro with an M1 Max chip, and here you can see we were getting about 750 megabytes per second on writes and about 700 megabytes per second on reads. Not bad, but not close to that advertised speed. And we did try every port on the computer. We tried a couple of different cables just to rule out everything, and this was the best I could get out of it. But on the Windows side, we saw much better sequential read and write performance here. So on a Windows computer plugged into a Thunderbolt port, we were getting about 900 megabytes per second, give or take, on the writes, and about the same on the reads, which is what I would expect out of a USB-C drive with a built-in NVMe flash hard drive like this one has. So the performance on Windows is going to be fine. I expect it'll probably be about the same on a Intel Mac, but the M1 Macs are lagging a bit in performance, so expect, as I did, about 200 megabytes per second less in speed, at least for sequential reads and writes. And we also ran the Crystal Diskmark test in Windows, and there we saw scores that were on par with the prior edition T7 drives, pretty much within the margin of error throughout most of that test. It also performs nicely versus its competitors, right in line with those. That includes the SanDisk drive there, along with the Seagate One Touch. Now, the first two columns on that test are sequential read and write tests, similar to the BlackMagic one we were just looking at, but the remaining columns are random reads and writes, and the drive here performed pretty well across the board on those. So if you are looking to run a game or boot an operating system from the drive, it should do well in those activities where you've got a lot of random bits of data being read and written to all the time. So all in, a nicely performing drive, but not much better than the prior edition T7, and largely actually within the margin of error of the prior generation drive. Now, a little bit earlier, we plugged this into an iPad Pro, which has a USB Type-C port. The drive was picked up right away. We could play back a video, no problem. Just about anything that has a USB-C or USB-A port is going to work with this drive, as long as you keep that encryption off, which is the default setting. So when you first get this thing out of the box, you have to proactively install the software to enable the encryption. You don't lose any performance with the encryption, but you do lose compatibility. And that software at the moment only runs on Windows, Mac, or Android. But without the encryption, pretty much anything that supports a hard drive will work, and that includes game consoles. In the case of the next-gen consoles, the Xbox Series S and X, and the PS5, the newer next-gen titles need to run off internal storage, and your older games can run off of USB storage. So if you have a PS4 game on the PlayStation 5, move that to here to free up your internal space, and it'll run great off of here. Same is true on the Xbox side for Xbox 360 and Xbox One games. And just note that the drive is formatted for exFAT out of the box, so if your device doesn't support exFAT, you'll have to reformat the drive for something that it can read. That's not a big deal. In most cases, you'll be prompted to do that reformatting. Overall, it's a solid offering here from Samsung, pardon the pun. It feels really nice and rugged. The rubber here certainly will provide a little bit more shock protection, and of course you get the IP65 on it now. That is going to do it for this review of the Samsung T7 Shield, and until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold level supporters Jim Tanis and Tom Albrecht, Hot Sauce and Video Games and Eric's Variety Channel, Brian Parker and Frank Goldman, Amda Brown and Matt Zagaya, and Chris Allegretta. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/S.